Tell me, Brass, slurred Captain Creel as he tossed another liquefied asteroid shot down his throat, his 6 eyes flickering in amusement. Do the humans squeal more when you rip off their limbs, or when you show them a mirror? The mess hall of the Zeltraxian war cruiser erupted in wheezing laughter, tentacles slapping on tables, fangs clicking in glee. On the holoscreen behind them, a looping clip showed a human soldier trying to crawl away, legless, screaming silently into space. Brass didn't answer right away. He was too busy admiring the footage of his latest kill, which he'd uploaded to the Galactic TrophyNet with the caption, "New pet. Doesn't fetch." The likes were through the roof. Nobody noticed the human's eyes in that clip. Focused. Calm. Calculating. Watching. Not screaming. Watching. The war cruiser Zeltrax Omicron 7 floated lazily through the charred remains of what used to be an Earth military outpost. Debris shimmered like confetti in the void, a party aftermath written in blood and circuitry. Inside, Commander Brass strutted through the hallways with the confidence of a creature who never faced consequence. He had earned his reputation as a galactic predator, a master of the hunt, and Earth was his new safari. His pride wasn't just in his kills, it was in the way he displayed them. On the third deck, just outside his personal quarters, hung what the crew jokingly called the Hall of Screams. Mummified human corpses posed mid-run, mid-cower, mid-plea. Some still had tears on their cheeks. Others had their skulls replaced with glistening crystals. Brass passed them with a yawn. "Bring up the new batch," he commanded, tapping his claws against the touchscreen embedded in his bracer. "I want to see if any of these apes can sing when we skin them." Down in the detention bay, a dim chamber pulsing with a dull red glow, 6 new humans sat in separate holding pods. Not cages, pods. The Zeltraxians liked the way the humans squirmed under sterile lighting, encased in transparent shells like bugs in gel. 5 of the prisoners shifted, muttered, or stared blankly. One didn't move at all. Lieutenant Marla Voss sat still as a ghost, her eyes shut, breathing calm. The camera zoomed in. She opened her eyes. They didn't flicker to the lens, but straight into it. Her lips moved just once. The alien watching blinked. "What did she say?" Another leaned in. "She said?" The first muttered, translating, "Nice ship." The crew member laughed, a wet, hacking sound. "You think she knows what's coming?" "Let her," the other replied. "It's more fun that way." They didn't know who she was. They didn't know what Unit Echo was. And they definitely didn't know that this was not a rescue mission gone wrong. It was a long game just beginning. 17 hours later, the alarm started. At first, just a flicker in the lights. Then a soft whine from the navigation core. Then, full-scale sirens that made the walls tremble. The ship AI blared nonsensical warnings in binary bursts. Doors locked, then unlocked. Gravity surged and dropped. Half the mess hall crews slammed into the ceiling, one breaking his jaw on a hanging meat hook. That was ironic. Brass stormed into the command deck, shrieking. "What's happening?" "Unknown system override," barked the engineer, half his face covered in coolant. "Security grid is cycling through every protocol. It's like someone's playing piano on our fail-safes." "What about the prisoners?" "Gone." Silence. Brass leaned in, his voice low, dangerous. "What do you mean gone?" "Pods are open. All 6 are missing." "No breach?" "None. Internal access. Like they were invited out." On Subdeck 5, 2 guards walked into the cell block. "Might be a prank," one said nervously. "Maybe a higher-up messing with us." "Yeah," said the other. "A prank. Classic Brass humor, right?" They turned the corner and stopped. The ceiling above Pod 3 had a dripping shape dangling from it. It spun slowly, its limbs bent at unnatural angles. Strapped to the pipes with its own intestines was the body of Enforcer Krun. His empty eye sockets had been stuffed with human military pins. A note was carved into his chest in English and Zeltraxian. "Wrong side of the food chain." By the time Brass arrived, 3 more were missing from the crew. One dissolved into paste in a corridor filled with nanite dust. Another had been found encased in his own armor, welded shut with fusion glue. The third had been cut in half and rearranged, top to bottom, bottom to top. No signs of the humans. Not one trace. No heat signatures. No movement on radar. Just dead aliens and mounting panic. "They're just soldiers!" Braths roared. "Primitive, soft-bodied, bone-filled animals. We have the entire arsenal of the Dominion at our backs, and you're telling me they're winning? They're not just fighting us," whispered one technician. "They're playing with us." Back in a maintenance shaft on Deck 7, Voss sat with the rest of Unit Echo, checking maps on a stolen tablet, eating compressed protein bars like they were popcorn. The walls around them were etched with movement patterns, blind spots, ventilation tunnels, and kill zones. They hadn't escaped by luck. This was Step 3 in a 12-step mission plan. And Step 4? Turn the ship into a haunted house. "Nice touch with the eyes, Ramirez," Voss said. "Thanks," Ramirez grinned. "Had to pop them out just right or they'd lose the sparkle." "Too far?" said Astor, the unit's tech specialist. "Not far enough," said Voss. "They came to hunt us. We're going to show them what prey really looks like." In the command room, Braths ordered the remaining crew to double patrols, lock all escape routes, and reroute AI control. His voice cracked halfway through the orders. When his second officer questioned him, Braths slapped him with a claw so hard his head turned 180 degrees. On a distant corridor wall, written in alien blood, another message blinked into existence under flickering lights. "You should have laughed quieter." Then the lights went out. For years before the Zeltraxian war cruiser became a floating crypt, Lieutenant Marla Voss stood in the rain on the outskirts of an abandoned Colorado training base, watching her breath curl into the frozen air. Unit Echo wasn't listed on any official registry. You didn't get invited to join it. You got selected when the universe decided you were too stubborn to die. There were only 7 of them then, all ex-military, some ex-sane. They were trained in off-the-books tech, experimental tactics, and psychological warfare. And on that miserable, lightning-lashed day, they learned one rule: survival was the minimum. Revenge was the job. Their commander, a man who introduced himself only as Rook, once said, "We don't rescue. We don't retreat. We infiltrate and remind the galaxy what humans do when you back them into a corner. If someone hunts you, you make them pray they never looked your way." Now, as Voss crouched in the upper vent system of the Zeltraxian ship with Unit Echo behind her, she remembered that day. Her heartbeat was calm. Her thoughts surgical. The aliens had no idea what was happening. That was the point. They didn't know Unit Echo was genetically enhanced with custom neural augments. They didn't know the team had memorized the ship's layout days before they were even captured. They didn't know Ramirez had implanted a virus into the ship's AI via a broken tooth that wasn't a tooth at all, but a micronode transmitter. And most importantly, they didn't know this wasn't vengeance. This was precision. Below them, KRX the tracker paced through the corridor with all the grace of a predator. 7 feet tall, clawed, and covered in bone armor harvested from extinct beasts, he was a legend among his kind. His sense of smell could detect a human's sweat from 5 kilometers. His reputation? Flawless. He was the best at what he did, until today. He sniffed the air once, then again confused. The scent patterns were wrong. Too many false trails. Too many conflicting pheromones. He hissed and turned a corner, stepping into a hallway lined with mirror plating. For a split second, he saw his own reflection twist and move. Then the floor beneath him gave way, a wire snapping tight around his ankle and yanking him upward. He slammed into the ceiling, dangling like fresh meat. A small device beeped once. Gas hissed from the vent. His vision tunneled. And just before he passed out, he saw it, one of the humans, upside down from his position, saluting him casually before vanishing. On the bridge, the command crew scrambled to decode patterns in the killings. There was no logic, no strategy they could predict. But Voss wasn't just killing. She was teaching. Each strike had a lesson. One was locked inside an airlock and launched into space with a recording of his own laughter from an earlier hunting video. Another had been caught watching footage of Earth and was found dead, his eyes melted out and the words, "Still watching?" carved into his back. Brass screamed at the AI, demanding full lockdown. But the AI only responded in glitched static, playing a distorted version of the ship's own anthem, except now, layered beneath the melody, was a human whisper. "Hunts on." In a maintenance shaft 3 levels below the bridge, Ramirez and Astor were rigging a pressure bomb that wouldn't detonate so much as it would shatter every window in a specific hallway, sending one unlucky patrol into a vacuum funnel. Ramirez hummed as he worked, a lullaby his mother used to sing to him when she was still alive, before the Dominion wiped out their colony. "You think we're making a point yet?" Astor asked, handing him a detonator shaped like a candy bar. Ramirez grinned. "We haven't even gotten to the punchline." Meanwhile, Voss was using her downtime to map the ship's command hierarchy. Every death destabilized something. Every body was a message. She wanted Brass frantic. She wanted his crew divided. She wanted them questioning their own strength. And it was working. In the mess hall, what was once a den of taunting pride and celebration had become a whispering tomb. Alien officers snapped at one another. Paranoia gnawed at their nerves. One was caught dismantling his own weapon, muttering about spirits. Another tried to defect and was electrocuted by his own rank badge. They were unraveling faster than Voss had hoped. Back in his command chamber, Brass consulted his war council, which now looked more like a support group for the doomed. "This is not war," he growled, baring his teeth. "This is sabotage. We are being toyed with. They know our ship better than we do," one alien mumbled. "They set traps before they ever escaped. That's impossible." "No," Brass said, his voice quiet for the first time. "It's human." Across the cruiser, Silex, a low-ranking technician with a limp and a nervous twitch, quietly fixed the power coupling while watching footage on his private display. He wasn't supposed to access internal security feeds without authorization, but curiosity was a powerful drug. What he saw disturbed him. Not the killings. Not the sabotage. What got to him was the look in the human's eyes. Not rage. Not fear. Not even cold calculation. It was joy. They were enjoying this. Not in a mindless, bloodthirsty way, but like people who had waited a long time to finally do something righteous. Silex didn't know what to do with that feeling. He'd always believed the Dominion line: humans were chaos, born of mud and instinct. But this was methodical. Beautiful, in a way. And terrifying. He looked down at his hands, then at his console, then back at the paused footage of Voss standing over a fallen alien, staring into the lens of the corridor cam with the casual swagger of someone who knew she had already won. For a moment, Silex considered reporting the feed tampering. Then he copied the footage to a hidden drive and deleted the alert log. Maybe the Dominion had gotten something wrong. Back in the upper corridors, Unit Echo regrouped. Ramirez reported 2 more traps in place. Astor had siphoned power from the med bay to the cryo chambers, locking 20 Zeltraxians in stasis before they even knew what was happening. Voss looked at them all, nodding once. "Phase 4? Ramirez asked. Voss cracked her neck. "Phase 4. Somewhere in the belly of the ship, a new message appeared across the screens. Every screen, every system. A single human phrase, glowing blood red. "Still laughing?" And far away, deep inside a sealed armory, a weapon meant only for Dominion leadership flickered to life. It had recognized an override code. One that only a Dominion officer should know. Which meant, somewhere on the ship, someone alien had just sided with the humans. Silex had never committed treason before. He wasn't brave. He wasn't even particularly competent. Most of the time, he avoided eye contact, followed orders, and kept his head down. That was how you survived on a Dominion ship like the Zeltrax Omicron 7. He'd fixed wires, cleaned up after corpses, and listened to officers joke about how many humans they could get before breakfast. But something had shifted. It wasn't just the horror unfolding around him. It was the way the humans moved, the way they executed each attack with a mixture of precision and defiance. It was seeing his own crew become the hunted and realizing he didn't feel sorry for them. He felt relief. And maybe shame. The kind of shame that cracks you open just wide enough to let doubt in. The kind of shame that makes you betray your own species because, for once, you want to do the right thing, even if it kills you. Silex stood alone in the auxiliary systems hub, hands trembling as he typed out a relay code. He routed it through 3 decoy systems, embedded it in maintenance logs, and disguised the message as heat exhaust data. It wasn't much, just a signal. Coordinates. A timestamp. A phrase in clumsy, translator-assisted English. "I can help." Then he deleted every trace of it and sat there in the humming dark, wondering if he just signed his own death warrant. Marla Voss received the message 20 minutes later, mid-climb through a subdeck filtration shaft. The words appeared on a stolen wrist console she'd reprogrammed to piggyback off the Dominion's encrypted network. She stared at the message, expression unreadable, then passed the device to Ramirez. "Think it's a trap?" he asked. "Probably," she said. "But it's too clumsy for high-level bait. Whoever this is, they're either desperate or genuine." "That's the same thing," Astor muttered. "We meet," Voss said. "Carefully. At the arranged rendezvous point, an old coolant reservoir rarely used since the ship's environmental upgrades. Silex waited, his pulse pounding so hard it made his vision flicker. When the humans appeared, they moved like shadows, materializing from vents and crawl spaces without a sound. They circled him, weapons drawn, not speaking. "Hi," he said, voice cracking. "Don't shoot." "We won't," Voss said flatly. "Unless you try something stupid." Silex raised his hands. "I want to help. I think your kind was done wrong." Ramirez rolled his eyes. "Understatement of the damned century." Silex continued, his voice shaking less now. "I can get you full deck access. Control of weapons. Surveillance blind spots. I even have codes to override cryo-lockdown." "Why?" Voss asked, cutting him off. "Why betray your crew?" Silex hesitated, then looked her in the eyes. "Because they laughed when my sister screamed." That silenced the room. Even Ramirez stopped smirking. Astor looked away. "Name?" Voss asked. "Silex. Maintenance Tech, subsection 3A. I've been here 7 cycles." Voss nodded once. "Welcome to the wrong side of history." The humans melted back into the ship, Silex among them now, half-dazed and wholly committed. With his access, they triggered Phase 5. Cryochambers in Deck 9 were overridden, flash-thawing stored specimens at temperatures that ruptured every organ. Engineering systems were looped into false status reports, making it seem like entire sectors were stable when they were hemorrhaging atmosphere. Every emergency call rerouted to a chamber that had been sealed and depressurized. The Dominion crew couldn't respond fast enough because they didn't even know where to respond. Commander Braths knew things had gone from bad to terminal when the AI's voice dropped into something human. That was the only way he could describe it. The pitch, the sarcasm, the cadence. It was no longer announcing alerts, it was mocking him. "Good morning, Commander," it said. "Ship-wide oxygen levels are currently optimal for cardio-based mammals with vengeance issues. Estimated crew survival, 2 hours. Have a pleasant day." He smashed the console, breathing hard. He'd lost 63 crew members in the last 5 hours. Half of them hadn't even died in combat. They'd killed themselves or each other. Mistrust was spreading faster than Voss's team could even act. The humans weren't just sabotaging his ship, they were unraveling the mental fabric of his empire. Still, Braths had one last card to play. He ordered a sweep of the lower levels using drone sentries, remotely operated, heat-seeking, immune to human trickery. They descended in perfect formation, scanning every passage, mapping every heartbeat. Then they entered the storage bay. One by one, the feeds cut out. Brass watched in growing horror as static replaced each drone's visual. Then, after the last one went dark, a new image appeared on the central holoscreen. It was a room. His trophy room. Only now, the walls were lined with alien corpses. Zeltraxian officers, security staff, pilots, strung up by their own armor, their chests hollowed and stuffed with Dominion commendation badges. Some had human dog tags sewn into their throats. Others were arranged in the same poses Brass had used on human prisoners. Mirrors. Twisted, surgical mirrors. And in the center, an altar made of bones. On it, a single Dominion elite helmet sat, smoking slightly. Below it, scrawled in both languages, was the phrase, "Legacy returned." Brass screamed. Not in rage. In fear. He called an emergency lockdown, rerouting power to the bridge. He summoned every remaining soldier. He ordered the AI to purge the system. But the AI only laughed. On the bridge ceiling vent, Voss waited, crouched like a cat, watching Brass pace. Around her team positioned themselves at key corners. Silex was in the vent behind the command node, hands trembling as he bypassed the last firewall. The trap was nearly set. Brass reached for his communicator. "Dominion High Command, this is Brass. We've been compromised. Requesting planetary strike clearance. Burn this ship." No response. He tried again. Nothing. He turned to his second. "Where are the comms?" "Hijacked," said a voice. Not his second. Voss dropped down behind him. Brass spun, claws raised, but stopped when he saw the expression on her face. Not rage. Not bloodlust. Just satisfaction. "You hunted us," she said. "Made us trophies. We're returning the favor. You'll never make it out of here," he snarled. "We already have," she replied. Behind him, the bridge doors sealed with a hiss. Ramirez gave a two-finger salute from the control console. Astor stood on the console rail, humming the ship's anthem, only it was now twisted into a human melody. Then the lights turned red. Voss turned to Brass. "You know what the worst part is?" He didn't respond. "You thought this was a game." She hit the detonator. It didn't destroy the ship. It turned off every safety system. Oxygen dropped. Gravity tilted. Fires erupted. And all across the ship, Dominion officers woke up inside their own nightmare. Above the wreckage, in a lone maintenance pod, Voss floated silently, watching the chaos unfold below through a cracked viewport. Silex sat beside her, shivering. "I help," he whispered. She didn't smile. But she didn't look away either. "You did," she said. And the ship kept burning. Smoke curled through the fractured corridors of the Zeltrax Omicron 7 like dying breath. The red emergency lights flickered sporadically, casting the ship in a hellish glow. Sirens had long since been silenced, their final screeches swallowed by static. What remained now was chaos, stitched together by fear and fire. Whole sections of the ship had been gutted from within, others depressurized or rigged with traps that seemed designed not just to kill, but to humiliate. The Dominion vessel, once a proud testament to a war-hungry empire, had become a drifting coffin with an audience. All across Dominion space, intercepted transmissions had begun to leak. Grainy footage. Garbled audio. Images of once invincible Zeltraxian officers displayed like ornaments, their legacy reduced to cautionary whispers passed around under breath. Someone had turned the Hunter's playbook inside out. And the galaxy was watching. Brass sat alone in the shattered command chamber, his armor cracked, one of his mandibles hanging useless at the side of his face. Blood trickled down his temple in slow, sticky streams. He was no longer issuing orders. His elite warship, his trophy room, his legacy, everything had crumbled around him. The bridge screens were dark, save for one. A single terminal still flickered with life, displaying a looping message. "Do not engage Earth." The words pulsed, again and again, in perfect sync with the ship's failing heartbeat. Brass couldn't look away. He tried once, and saw his reflection instead, broken, disfigured, humbled in the worst possible way. He no longer looked like a commander. He looked like prey. Across the vessel, Unit Echo was tying up the last phase. Marla Voss walked calmly through the remains of the med bay, boots crunching over shards of shattered stasis tubes and scorched plating. She held a Dominion override key in one hand, a scavenged knife in the other. Every soldier they'd lost on Earth, every family ripped apart by alien arrogance, every scream she'd had to silence while tied to a wall, this was the answer. This was the Echo. She passed by Ramirez and Astor as they sealed the last escape route with an improvised magnetic field generator. There was no need to chase the remaining Zeltraxians. They were already trapped. The only way out now was surrender, or suffocation. "You think he'll break?" Ramirez asked. "He already did," Voss replied. "Now we show him what comes after." Back in the bridge, the doors slid open with a hiss, and Voss stepped through, alone. Brass didn't turn to look. He didn't need to. He recognized her footsteps. The sound of a predator who didn't need to roar. She approached slowly, knife still in hand but held loosely, like a tool rather than a weapon. "You finally here to kill me?" Brass rasped, voice thick with pain. "No," Voss said. "You don't get to die yet." He looked up, eyes wild. "Then what do you want?" She stepped forward until she stood over him. "I want you to remember." She tapped the console beside him. With a few flicks, a recording began to play. Brass's voice echoed through the chamber. The same words he'd spoken during a hunt 6 months ago, laughing as a human family was torn apart in a controlled arena. "Watch this part," the recording Brass said. "The child tries to shield the mother. Like that ever works?" The Rio Brass flinched. Voss let it play out in full. Every second. Every scream. When it ended, she leaned down and whispered, "That boy was my cousin." Brass closed his eyes. "You recorded it," she said. "Posted it like a joke. Got millions of views across the Dominion. You fed our people to your children as bedtime stories." Brass didn't answer. "But you know what scares your empire the most?" she continued. "It's not that we fought back. It's that we planned it. That we let you think you won. That we let you laugh. And then we came here, and made sure your laughter was the last sound your crew ever heard." She stepped back, not even bothering to stab him. "You'll live. You'll go back if they let you. And you'll tell them exactly what you saw." She turned to leave. He tried to stop her with one last defiant gasp. "They'll come. The Dominion, they'll wipe your kind out." She paused. Then smiled. "Good," she said. "We're just getting started." By the time Unit Echo regrouped at the shuttle bay, the ship was entirely under human control. Silex stood near the edge of the hangar, watching the stars outside with a distant expression. He hadn't spoken much since the final assault. Something in him had shifted too, less guilt now, more purpose. He didn't belong with the Dominion anymore. Maybe he never had. Voss approached him quietly. "Still with us?" He nodded. "They'll brand me a traitor." She shrugged. "You're alive. That's better than a dead patriot." "I want to help more," he said. "Really help. Not just survive this." "You will," she replied. "There's a place for you. But next time, you won't be hiding behind codes." He gave her a thin smile. "I think I'm done hiding." As they prepared to launch, Astor connected the last of their data logs to a wideband transmitter. A final gift to the galaxy. Every horror the Dominion had hidden. Every image, every recording, every voice. Uploaded and broadcasted in real time to neutral systems and rebel cells alike. A full archive of Dominion atrocities. The message was clear. Earth wasn't prey anymore. As the stolen shuttle detached from the burning carcass of the Zeltraxian warship, Voss looked out through the viewport one last time. The ship drifted silently, its lights dimming, its symbols blackened. In the distance, other Dominion vessels had begun to ping distress signals. Maybe they'd investigate. Maybe they'd try to recover something. All they'd find were bodies, warnings carved into steel, and a ship that whispered to its own kind in a language of blood and memory. Back on Earth, thousands of light years away, encrypted messages had already begun appearing in military channels, resistance forums, and old signal relays long thought abandoned. Simple, consistent, unmistakable messages from an unknown source. Unit Echo. Still active. Still fighting. Do not engage Earth. And across the stars, those who had once hunted humanity paused. They remembered the laughter, the trophies, the screams. And now, they remembered the silence that followed. The kind of silence that only comes after the prey learns to hunt. The ship that found the wreckage wasn't Dominion. It belonged to a smaller trade coalition vessel called the Kinter's Promise, a diplomatic courier ship that hadn't seen combat in years. They answered the distress beacon out of protocol, not expecting much. Maybe a salvage opportunity, maybe a few survivors clinging to life. What they found was silence wrapped in carnage. The moment they breached the perimeter of the Zeltrax Omicron 7, their instruments screamed. Not from external threats, but from the sheer volume of corrupted data bleeding from the Dominion warship's black box. Entire data vaults were leaking transmissions, looping holographic files, personal logs, intercepted screams, and a final message flashing on every interface they tried to access: do not engage Earth. Captain Rin of the Kinter's Promise stood frozen in the center of his bridge as the ship's AI struggled to process the incoming flood. Images of mutilated Dominion officers filled the screens. Sounds, inhuman, deliberate, sometimes eerily calm, played through the audio system like haunted lullabies. None of it made sense. The Dominion didn't lose. They didn't fall silent. And they certainly didn't get turned into trophies. The captain sent out a sector-wide alert. His crew began recording everything. And somewhere deep in the political core of the Galactic Accord, people began to panic. Far across the stars, in a high-orbit Earth surveillance station camouflaged as a decommissioned satellite, Voss sat quietly with her boots on the edge of the console. She watched the stars through reinforced glass, the Earth's curve soft and pale behind her. Ramirez was asleep in a bunk behind her, arms behind his head, snoring like he hadn't just helped dismantle the most feared ship in Dominion history. Aster was tapping away at a custom-built console, patching into network after network, watching the first shockwaves ripple out from their broadcast. Silex stood nearby, pacing, still adjusting to Earth gravity and human caffeine, both of which were doing strange things to his nervous system. "They've seen it," Aster said after a long silence. "All of it?" Voss asked. "Every log, every broadcast, every trophy room file. The ones with dates, the ones with names. We gave them everything." "Good," she said. Silex paused. "Do you think it's enough?" "No," Voss said. "But it's a start." Ramirez stirred, blinked a few times, and sat up. "Did we just start a war?" Aster glanced over his shoulder. "No. The war started a long time ago. We just made sure no one could pretend it wasn't happening anymore." The internal screens on the surveillance station began to light up. Messages from sectors they hadn't pinged directly. Not just Earth. Colonies. Independent resistance cells. Civilian enclaves that had long gone dark. They were receiving the transmission. And more importantly, they were responding. One message blinked into view from a rebel group on Mars: "You're not alone. We saw what they did to our outpost. We thought we were forgotten. We're with you." Another from a smuggler syndicate in the belt: "Saw your work. About time someone put those arrogant bastards in their place. Tell us what you need." And one from an unknown source, tagged simply as Wraith: "We've been waiting. Welcome to the storm." Voss read each one in silence, jaw set, but eyes burning with something unspoken. It wasn't satisfaction. It wasn't relief. It was the fire of momentum. Of understanding that revenge was done, but reckoning had only begun. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Brass stood in front of the Dominion Tribunal. He was bruised, barely healed, flanked by guards who eyed him like a biohazard. The chamber was cold, austere, lined with species that had never feared anything before. Now they looked at him as if he was diseased with failure. He had been summoned to explain the disaster. He had no lies left. He had told them what he saw, what he endured. He showed them the footage. Some didn't believe it. Others believed it too much. A high-ranking arbiter finally spoke. You are suggesting that 6 humans boarded a Dominion-class war cruiser and dismantled it using psychological warfare and outdated weapons? Brass looked up, his voice raw. No. I am saying 6 humans let us believe we captured them. And then they taught us what the word hunted really means. The chamber buzzed. Some hissed. Others recoiled. One leaned forward, voice cold. And you let them live? Brass didn't answer. He didn't need to. The Dominion had built its empire on fear. Now fear had a new face. Back in orbit, Unit Echo wasn't celebrating. There was no room for that. They had too much work to do. Silex was helping Aster create a new relay network using old Dominion's satellite infrastructure, rerouted to make it appear defunct. Ramirez was teaching resistance groups how to rig Dominion tech to detonate on command. Voss was planning the next incursion. Not an attack, an invitation. A signal to every world, every species, every shadowed system that had been waiting for a sign. It came in the form of a simple transmission, an anonymous voice, distorted, genderless, speaking over a grainy feed of a Dominion base going up in flames. You've watched them rule. You've seen the trophies. The camps. The silence. We are not silent anymore. We are the echo of every scream they tried to bury. We are Unit Echo. You are not alone. Pick a target. Voss cut the transmission there. Short. Sharp. Surgical. She sat back in her chair as thousands of response pings echoed across the stars. Aster looked at her. You think they'll come? They already have, she said. A ping came from one of the deep space surveillance nodes. A Dominion frigate, old model, damaged. No transponders. Approaching Earth's outer perimeter. It didn't look hostile. No weapons powered. No shields up. Just drifting toward the silence they had created. Voss narrowed her eyes. Open comms. One way. The static resolved into a single, trembling voice. It belonged to a Dominion pilot. She was young. Scared. I don't want to fight anymore, the voice said. I've seen the feeds. I've seen what we did. Please. I'm not like them. I want to defect. Ramirez arched a brow. They're defecting now? They're waking up, Voss said. Aster tapped a few keys. Do we let her in? Voss paused. Then nodded. Just one rule, she said. You earn your place. As the ship was guided into quarantine, as more messages flooded their feeds, as 100 resistance groups began to connect across once isolated star systems, one thing became clear. This wasn't a rebellion anymore. This was the beginning of something bigger. The Echo had turned into a storm.